Welcome to the Idiot Farmers Volume 16. Today we're making homemade cornmeal, cornbread, and chili from some venison we got on the farm. We hope you enjoy.
Just wanted to show you again, not 1 ounce of Uncle Ron's kettle corn is wasted. These two not so small pigs are big fans. Right, piglets? Okay, we got some new roosts in here for the chickens. You can see there's feathers everywhere from where I cleaned out the nesting box, which they don't need because they're not nesting or anything, although they may lay eggs. That's not really their main gig here. Anyway, look at the roosts. Aren't they nice? Look at the molted feathers everywhere. Hopefully get this place cleaned up directly. Yay, breast chickens. They're not very happy, as you can see, with my work. They're a little angry. So here's an addition from this week. We've created a separator between these two chicken tractors. This is just a piece of plastic fencing. It's not really robust, and it's not meant to hold out predators, but actually just to keep chickens separated somewhat, just because some of these, there's a couple roosters over here that are kind of buttholes. Not too many. Bob's not. Right, Bob? Bob's a good boy. But then we got these guys, the breasts. Now see, here's their water and a little bit of food. And what are they doing? Nothing. They are afraid to come out. Some might say chicken, except for our intrepid explorer back here, who I like very much because at least she's got some moxie, right? Maybe that's what we should call you, as Moxie. What's up? Let me see her little blue feet. And that's not color on her. That's actually dirt. I'm not sure why she's so dirty, but probably just from one of the roosters with muddy feet would be like my guess. So there's Bob. Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob the rooster. Hey, Bob the rooster. What you doing, buddy? Let's see if we can get her back up by her buddies. She's like, I want to go over there with Bob. Let me just move her.
Lee is flambeing. Let's turn off this.
Oh, flame.
Flambeing some steak in bourbon that he saw on Hulu last night.
Gouda.
He used like a whole cup of bourbon in here. So
Third cup.
look, steak is cooked.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. The steak is cooked.
Oh. Oh, that's good.
Describe it.
Tastes like bourbon and salt. And
That's
beef.
super
I mean,
helpful. Lee. This kid wants to
that's
go
what
to
it tastes-
culinary school. Oh, it is
Give me
good.
the measuring cup.
Papa's gonna make sure that the bourbon's not wasted.
Alright, so what we have here is about 1/3 of the corn I planted this year. I have it under a fan trying to dry it out so we can remove it from the cob here in a few days, or maybe a week, I don't know. Guess it depends on how long it takes to dry out. And we will try to make some cornmeal. Exciting, huh? There's the corn husk stuff, which we're gonna burn here directly. See how pretty? All right, what we got here is my Harbor Freight drill set, 2-inch end cap, 2-inch PVC that my hardware store is nice enough to cut me a little 1-foot piece. I don't even need that much, but that's what we'll use for now. Got 6 self-tapping screws, bolts, and washers. What are we gonna do with this? I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna drill this out here, put this guy in the washers through there like this. No, like this, actually. So that we can use this to spin this. And this thing here is gonna have the 6 1-inch self-tapping screws through it, and we're going to use it to take the kernels off the corn. Check it out. air washers and stuff in there. You got nothing on me, fleshlight. All right. Corn sheller 1.0. There's a guy who made one of these online, and I was watching him, and he had, yeah, it's probably just moldy right there. He had one of these things, and he drilled some holes in it. And I was like, what are the purpose of those holes except to have the corn spray out worse than it's already spraying out? And so I didn't make it that way, and I'm pretty glad that I didn't. You can see. Look at that! Huh? How about that for a proof of concept video? So I'm going to sift this, and any of the little pieces that are left over are going to go to the chickens. And there's some corn hair and stuff in there, but that's probably a kilogram anyway of the mixed field corn we had around here. Look how pretty that is. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I think that was highly successful personally. Here we are. Here's our calcium hydroxide, aka pickling lime. You can see we have 10 grams of it. That's what we're going to use, roughly an 8-ball. I'm sorry. 10 grams of pickling lime. We're going to put in to our roughly 1 kilogram of corn and 2,000 cc's of water. So here's our corn. You can see how pretty. And it is submerged in some water here. And what we're going to do is add some pickling lime to this for the process known as nixtamalization. But before that, I'm sitting here kind of mixing it up and sweeping out like little bits of this and bits of that, corn silk and stuff like that. It's going to be washed a number of times actually, because after we mix it with the lime and simmer it for a while, we're going to let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow we're going to rinse it a bunch of times to get the lime off of it, and then put it through a grinder and make corn masa. So, and again, this is the first part of nixtamalization. Tamales. We want to show you guys how this looked.
So while Phil finishes up hand shelling the ones that don't fit in his machine there, I'm going to get the grinder set up because he wants to have cornbread for dinner. So, we're going to start grinding. This table, by the way, belonged to my grandparents. And I remember that they still had this when they lived in Lordstown, Ohio. And they moved from Lordstown, Ohio to Grafton probably 30 some years ago. This is a very sturdy old table. I always freaking cut myself. Shut up. Ah! Cut my finger. Because that is what I do. Nothing's coming out of it
I
now.
think it only works in one direction.
That's no small amount of work.
This is why we have
Food
a
processors.
food processor inside. A Vitamix, actually.
So we're going to do a little of this by hand to show you how absolutely cool we are. And then we'll probably take the rest and put it in the Vitamix because that makes more sense. Oh.
Thank you.
All right, it's Vitamix time.
How great is that? Boom. Corn seed saved for next year. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was still on. We saved this corn seed for next year. Just want to give you guys a little preview of the carnage we did shelling the corn. You can see this is a normal 5-gallon masonry bucket and all this beautiful shelled Bloody Butcher corn, courtesy of the corn sheller I built out of 2-inch PVC. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway.
So as you can see, we're not just idiots, but we're nerds. So we do have the T-Rex, the lovely T-Rex squeaky door here, and the Pokemon Pokeball popcorn popper, which I'm sure we'll get some use this evening. We'll see if Bloody Butcher popcorn or Bloody Butcher corn pops. I don't know the answer to that. It's not technically a popping corn, but I thought, maybe it'll pop. Who knows? All right, here we go.
You see, we took the cornbread that Mindy put through the Vitamixer, and this is the part that sifted out. It's just kind of like heavier kernels and stuff. You can actually make grits out of this, but we're just going to feed that to the chickens. And this is more or less what it looked like. You can see how it got the red flecks in from the outside. And this is the batter we made for cornbread. And in the oven right now, I have the cast iron skillet at 425 degrees. And this is a mixture of the cornmeal, a little bit of all-purpose flour, buttermilk, a couple of eggs, some shortening, which I actually just used butter, baking powder, baking soda, that sort of thing. So we'll see how it turns out. I think it's going to turn out just great. The eggs, of course, are from our farm, and the corn's from our farm, so this is sort of like a farm-to-table thing. Mindy, this afternoon at some point, is going to make some chili out of some deer we shot off the farm, so it's going to be a whole big kit and caboodle. I want to get a picture of the cornmeal before it goes in the oven. So it's our homemade cornmeal. And this is the finished product. Bloody Butcher corn, cornbread, buttermilk cornbread. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. All right, so this is the cornbread we made out of the Bloody Butcher corn using eggs from the farm. We don't have cows, so this is Land O'Lakes butter. So we're gonna try it. This is buttermilk. Actually, it's really delicious. Holy shit, it is so good.
Cool.
It is so good.
So one nice thing about living in a small rural community is that we have some really great neighbors, actually. So Now, when I say neighbors, I mean neighbors, like farm neighbors. But today, one of our neighbors dropped off a whole bucket full of green beans from his farm. So next thing I'm going to do, so they don't go to waste, is I'm going to go ahead and start canning these green beans. So I have filled up the sink with water, as you can see, and I'm going to wash off all these beans. These are not actually the type of beans that you have to string, so I just need to wash them off, take the ends off, and then we'll be putting them into cans and canning them this afternoon. Now the other thing that he gave us, which is over here,
Picture of the cornmeal before it goes in the oven. So that's our
is a bag full of tomatoes and some spring onions. So what I'm going to do with this bag, actually, oh, there's some little peppers in there. Green peppers in there. So I'm probably going to take everything in this bag and put it in a stew pot together. The green peppers, the tomatoes, the onions, and I will make kind of stewed tomatoes. And then that's something that we can use going forward. We'll can that and we'll make chilies and spaghetti sauces and things like that for the rest of the winter. So that's what we're going to be working on today. I just want to say a special thanks to our neighbor for this nice bounty. His garden lasted a little bit longer than ours, probably because we just, towards the end there, got a little busy with work and didn't keep up with it as much as we'd like to. I just have to say a shout out to one of the nurses at the hospital who brings us fresh garlic from his farm, which we appreciate very much and we use a lot of. So we're putting some garlic in there and gonna throw some salt and pepper in it, and we'll go ahead and start cooking that down. So in the time of COVID, teachers are coming up with very creative things for the kids to do. This time for band, Lee was asked to take the silliest picture he could of him practicing his saxophone. So here's Lee taking his silly picture of his saxophone playing.
I'd like to point out, the assignment in itself was not to take a silly picture, but I like my teacher, and my teacher likes me, and he told me there's a lot of people who have taken silly photos. I need you to take the silliest.
Alright, so I'm back and I'm going to show you how I make venison chili. To start off with, we have our fresh venison. This is the ham of a venison. It's actually half of a ham. There's still. The other half we put in the fridge for later because I'm really trying hard to learn how not to cook for 30 people. This tends to be what we do. Now, what I have in my hand here is some of that fresh garlic, and in the pot I've got some of the onions that I just cut up from our neighbor. Venison is a really lean meat to cook with, so you really do need a little bit of oil in the pan if you're gonna do this. Now, what I'm gonna do to start with is just kind of fry up the trying to find my stirring thing first. Okay, fry up the onions and the garlic just a little bit until they get a little soft. And then I do things a little different than some people do. I'm actually going to have Phil get me all the other stuff that I need, which is a couple of things of tomatoes, preferably our fresh ones if we have some, and then a couple of things of beans. And now I'm from Texas, and I understand that the Bible of chili says no beans, but I don't really care because I'm also from the border of Mexico and we have a lot of beans in our chili. So,
just 1/4.
no, 2, thank you. And also, I prefer personally to have a lot of different types of beans in my chili, so I'll have black beans, kidney beans, generally not white beans, mostly black beans, kidney beans, and pinto beans, and I use kind of a combination of all of them. And one of my secret ingredients, if I have any on hand today, which I don't know if I do, is I always use 1 can of what they call chili hot beans or ranch style beans, just to give a little kick to that. But I don't really need to in this one because I'm also going to add some of the serrano peppers that Phil grew in the garden this year. So I don't really need an extra kick because I'm going to be putting 2 whole serrano peppers in it. It's not for the faint-hearted, by the way. Don't put 2 whole serrano peppers in it if you don't like spicy food. So, okay, this is about ready. Now, one other thing I do a little different. I like to put my spices in on top of the meat itself. Oh. Okay. Again, let's reiterate that this is called the Idiot Farmers because I just threw the meat in on top of the onions and garlic that I was cooking, but the burner wasn't on. Anywho, we'll just kind of mix that in together because that's what I meant to do in the first place. It's like rain.
So you just get it all then?
What? No, this is half of it.
Oh, that's half of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
We put the other half in the fridge already because the evil cat's been trying to get over here and eat it. Just stirring a little bit on this pot. This is the tomatoes and peppers. And touched all that raw meat. I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. Cat just went flying. Okay, so everything's in here now, and I'm going to start putting my seasoning in. So, of course, always a little salt. Maybe a little bit more salt. A little bit of black pepper. Okay, maybe a lot of black pepper. And then I get into my chilies. I always use a lot of just plain McCormick or whoever's dark chili powder. I don't know what kind of chilies it comes from, but it definitely gives the chili a dark red color, which I like. So I use a hefty amount of that. And then I get into all different kinds of chilies. So I have a little bit of hatch green, throw in there. A little bit of achote, which has like a citrusy kind of smell to it, just to kind of liven it up a little bit. Obviously, I usually just do this because these aren't working like they should. Chipotle, which is smoky and a little tangy. Guajillo, I'm going to actually leave out. Guajillo has a really earthy kind of scent to it, but really not going for that this time. The bull is very bright. Gives it sort of an orange tint to it as well. And then again, ancho has a little bit of that smokiness. It's very similar to the chipotle in how it smells and tastes. And then the one thing I left out, which I will just go grab really quick. She's back. Okay. Hot Jamaican style curry powder. It gives the chili a very different flavor. It actually doesn't end up tasting like curry at all because you've got so much of this great chili in here. But it does give it a little bit of a kick and just a little bit of a brightness that you wouldn't otherwise have. So what I'm going to do then is just like stir this whole thing together and kind of let the meat brown for a little bit. Once the meat is brown, I will add our homemade canned tomatoes, which is what I'm cooking over here. And depending on how it looks when I put the tomatoes in, I'll either put 1 or 2 of these in it. And then I usually put 3 or 4 cans of beans. So I've got spicy black beans, light red kidney beans, and pinto beans. And I'm going to go check myself and see if we actually have any of those hot chili beans. Here's what the chili looks like right now before I pour everything into it. And here's my stew. Getting that all good and ready to go. And that noise in the background is the pressure canner cooking on the beans. And by the way, that is 20 minutes on high pressure, and then you have to let it come to room air. Don't manually vent it.
Well, no, that's okay. We're filming Mindy having some of the chili. This is a deer we shot on the farm last year and some other stuff.
There's a button buck.
It's really good if I do say so myself. The venison's really tender, which is weird because it's a ham. Not super spicy, really at all. Good flavors. Love it. Love it. All right, guys, I had this massive egg, and I had to eat it this morning because it got cracked when I was trying to put it into the egg container. And so as I cracked it open, the egg white came out into the pan there. You can see that in there is another egg. So here is egg number 2 that just was in egg number 1. And that's the most bizarre thing I think I've seen so far. So yeah, 2 eggs in 1. Who knew?
Double yolker, baby.
Thank you so much for watching The Idiot Farmers. I realize this was a little bit longer than normal, but we had a lot to say. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below, and please share with anyone you think might enjoy it. Thank you and have a great day.